It's getting a lot of play, as it should, at least on one network. The tragic death of Mollie Tibbets up there in Iowa. Absolutely, totally tragic. And the left's response, so predictable. Dan Golvach lost his son Spencer in January of 2015 to an illegal invader. Spencer was just innocently sitting at a red light here in Northwest Houston when an illegal criminal invader decided just to roll up on him and unload a firearm, shoot projectiles into Spencer Golvach. It's unfortunate that usually I'm reminded to bring Dan on after something tragic like this happens. I guess I could bring him on every week. Dan Golvach, welcome back to Raging Elephants Radio, my friend. How are you?
How you doing, Claver?
Thanks for holding on, man. I want to throw some numbers at you real quick and get your response. For weeks now, I haven't gone through this in quite some time, but for weeks I've been hammering the Trump administration and the Abbott administration, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and others, because frankly we can't wait for a wall. I'm very cynical about the campaign to build the wall because we can't wait. The numbers that I went and retrieved from ICE's website themselves, Dan, shows that in the first 9 months of fiscal year 2018, which goes back to October 1, 2017, up to June 30th, 2018, 177.8 thousand have been apprehended crossing the border just in Texas. Now, we learned from the National Border Patrol Council that it's a 50-50 proposition catching those who invade the state of Texas. You listen to Dan Patrick's latest commercial. He says it's a 4-to-1 ratio. For every one they catch, 4 are getting across scot-free, if you listen to his numbers. So if we take the National Border Patrol Council's number as a 50-50 proposition, that if they're catching 177,000 or 178,000, that means that 358,000 totally invade the country. That's the total that have invaded Texas. Just the 5 border sectors of Texas, 358,000. And I promised the Saints and Patriots I'm going to go and see if the numbers for July have been posted this weekend. The last time I checked, they had not been posted for July. I want to see what it's been for the last 10 months. And that's a Trump administration responsibility. That's a Greg Abbott responsibility, a Dan Patrick, a Ken Paxton responsibility. This campaigning for the border wall, we can't wait for the border wall. We don't need any more Spencer Golvaches. We don't need any more Kate Steinleys. We don't need any more Mollie Tibbets. We need the Marines on the border, not just building of the wall. Your response, first of all, Dan, about the death of Mollie Tibbets.
Well, it's just another tragic, sad reminder of how lawless our government is and how treasonous and traitorous they are. This is, again, systemic in that the government fully knows well what's coming over. They know what the real stats are. They have on the United States Sentencing Commission website. They know what the real there's a myth being propagated by the mainstream media that illegal aliens don't do more crime than American citizens. That's a lie. That's just a complete lie, and they're fully aware of it. Yet, in two interests: the interest of supplying the mega donor class with cheap labor, and the left with hopefully future socialist communist votes. They continue to allow people to thumb their nose at the immigration laws that were designed to protect Americans. It's that simple.
Yeah, but Dan, and the criticism that we receive or the administration receives for quote unquote politicizing this thing, isn't that why citizens of Texas and the United States like Spencer or Mollie or Kate and numerous others that are immortalized by the Remembrance Project, Maria Espinosa Ling's advocacy, isn't that why they're separated from their families permanently because of politics?
Oh yes. I first of all, I want to back up. You said something that has really been irritating me lately about the mainstream media and how they're trying to say, let's not politicize this tragedy. Wait a minute. That's how we handle anything, any issue in this country. It's politics, right? So what they're really saying is, let's just not talk about it. Let's not talk about it. Let's not address it. Because what other avenue do we have other than politics? You know, I mean, what else is there? So what they're, that's just code for shut up about it. We don't want to hear about it because it doesn't fit our agenda. But yes, like you're saying, Claver, they want to go on and on. They cherry pick which families that they want to talk about separation for maybe a few hours at the border or maybe a day at the most. But when it comes to families like mine who are separated forever, for life, they don't want to talk about that at all. They run away from it like a vampire runs away from a crucifix.
See, that's why I wanted to bring you on, because when a story like Mollie Tibbets comes up, folks need to be reminded this is an isolated incident. I mean, this happens all the time, these types of tragedies. And, we're blessed to have a connection with you so that others can be reminded that it is extremely personal. And it is politics, and it's extremely personal. And then you have what I believe is the true attitude of the left, as exhibited by that college professor on BSNBC that said, oh, Fox News is talking about some girl in Iowa. That's like them saying, oh, Fox News is just talking about some guy in Houston, as referring to Spencer or anybody else that's been tragically murdered, lost their lives at the hand of a legal invader. I don't call them illegal aliens. I call them illegal invaders. When you've got more people coming across the border at a rate of 1 per minute is the math on it. 1 person per minute is crossing the Rio Grande. And when you've got more people apprehended crossing the border than invaded Europe on D-Day, then stormed the beaches of Normandy, that's an invasion. That's why I'm saying we can't be chanting, build the wall, build the wall. It should be send in the Marines. Send in the Marines. We're being invaded, Dan Golvach.
Amen. Amen. We spend how many trillions of dollars?
1.4. Daniel. I mean, Donald Trump. I mean, I get it. I mean, he's a whole lot better than anything else we've seen recently. Let's just be honest about it. I'm not a Trumpkin. I say it all the time. I'm going to criticize him. I'm going to criticize him hard, and I'm going to criticize him from the right. I'm going to criticize him from a position of liberty. He's going around campaigning, pounding his chest, pawing the dirt, saying we are spending $1.4 trillion on national defense. $1.4 trillion, and the nation, especially Texas, is being conquered by toddlers and dirty diapers.
Yes. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you watch the news. Oh, it's the Middle East. We got to protect Israel. Or we got to protect North Korea or South Korea. We got to protect. What are we going to do over here? What are we going to do about Syria? What are we going to do about Iran? Israel's at stake and all these, and that's fine. I understand there's politics, but man, is that ever putting the cart before the horse? I mean, let's go ahead and protect everybody else and spend trillions, but we can't get our treasonous Congress to allocate $1 billion even.
Oh, no, Dan, even here in Texas, see, I use that terminology for those here in Texas. I used it when Rick Perry was governor and Barack Hussein Obama was opening the border. I mean, like the Hoover Dam. Okay, I was saying treasonous. They have more concern for those who are not even citizens over fellow Texans. I've been saying absolutely, totally treasonous. You had people calling for a special session here in Texas under the Pink Dome, not to discuss possible legislation, emergency legislation to shut down the border, but to what kind of money was going to be appropriated to hand over to the illegal invaders once they got here. I mean, this is the kind of madness that drives Texans crazy. And then you have the likes of a Dan Patrick and others. You talk about $1 billion. Yeah, they appropriated $1 billion. They appropriated $1.8 billion from the Pink Dome for border security. $1.8 billion. But here's my problem with it, Dan Golvach. That's 0.5% of total Texas government expenditures. 0.5%. In other words, they're telling us that here in Texas, where the invasion is the #1 political issue, and in other polls, it's the #1 issue nationally, but certainly here in Texas by a long shot, as far as the Pink Domers are concerned, it is not a priority. I mean, when you're spending $1.8 billion out of over a $200 billion budget, 0.5%, you have no intention of protecting Texans. Yes, Dan, it is treasonous.
Yeah, it's political theater because, you know, you can go to, I would challenge anyone to go to the Texas GOP. It's a news publication here. It's owned by Norm Adams, and
it's a Rhino site. It's a Rhino site. It's a Rhino open border amnesty site.
It's what they're pushing, and I'll give them this much. At least they're being honest about it. They want the open borders. They want the illegal aliens. They're saying our economy will collapse, and America can't. You know, America won't be able to exist. You know, we won't be able to sustain our economic expansion without illegal aliens. And just tripe. You know, and what it is, Norm, is you're getting filthy, stinking rich off this cheap illegal alien.
Norm Adams is who you're talking. Norm Adams is who you're talking about. #1 amnesty lobbyist in Texas.
Yeah, and you know he's in with all the construction and he insures subcontractors, and I get that. So it's good for business. It's good for his business, and he's made himself rich off. He's made himself so rich that he can buy a news publication and use it to propagate this lie. And they don't want to talk, and they'll always throw in, well, you know, we do need to secure the border, and then they'll talk a little bit. Then you know, they say that. It's just like what you're saying. There's a lot of political theater going on with these politicians. They know that they have to say, we're going to do something about the border. You know, we're going to do this, that, and they have to do that. But in reality, if you look at who's filling their coffers, if you look at who's paying for, you know, these campaigns are expensive. And if you look at who's putting the money behind these campaigns, you have to ask yourself, is someone like Charles Butt going to give a candidate, you know, millions of dollars or put millions of dollars into a party so they can just turn right around and compromise this cheap illegal labor pool? I don't think so. You know, Americans need to wake up. We are a plutocracy now, and we're not. This myth that we are being represented by Congress, and this goes for Texas too. Texas is a microcosm of this. It's a myth that we're being represented by the people in the House and the people in the Texas Senate. You have to look at who's really controlling things. And they say things and they do things for show.
Oh, it's all for show.
They're not interested.
It's all for show. It's all for the clapping seals.
I can tell you, they are not interested at all in really doing something about that border. Because if they were, and the same thing with what you're saying, I hate to say this, but I don't know why Trump is waiting on Congress. Trump could use the military budget that he was allocated back in the bill that he got.
The defense authorization bill. That defense authorization bill. You're going to tell me out of that first $700 billion tranche, they couldn't pull out $25 million, or the second $716 billion tranche that they can't pull out $25 million for the border? But my argument is, Dan, that even if they pulled out the $25 billion for the wall, we don't have that time to build the wall. It will take years to build the wall. In the meantime, we're being invaded at 1 per minute in Texas. 1 per minute.
I'm not sure that we're not past midnight on this because I don't know. I mean, you're right. It's now or never. We can't wait till the midterms. We need to. This is an invasion. That's what I've been calling it all along. If you go back to my speech in Washington 3 years ago that I did at the social contract event, I said, the left has successfully put us on defense and used semantics in this issue by branding it as an immigration issue and calling these people undocumented immigrants. No, we need to be honest. An immigrant is someone that comes in here on our terms. Someone that comes in on their own terms and thumbs their noses at the laws that are designed to protect American citizens is an invader. It's an invader, and they don't like that because it's not politically correct, but it is correct.
It is correct. It is accurate. And I want to get back to this issue of priority. I want to go back to 2015, Dan. 2015, okay? The opening session. And Greg Abbott, we lost Spencer in January 2015. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I want to go back to the first day of the legislative session, or the first week, I do believe, when Greg Abbott addresses a joint session of the House and the Senate under the Pink Dome, and he's listing his emergency items for the 2015 legislative session. Here's 1 minute of his speech that day.
Our first and foremost obligation is to protect our citizens' safety. We cannot be naive to the threat posed by drug cartels, transnational gangs, and human smuggling and trafficking operations. The first step in securing our border is enforcing the rule of law. That's why I have a comprehensive border security plan. My plan more than doubles the spending on securing the border. It adds 500 new state troopers, more Texas Rangers who can focus on corruption, more funding for local law enforcement. This legislation is essential, which is why I'm declaring border security funding as my fourth emergency item.
Dan, Greg Abbott, this is only months before we lose Spencer. A young man I wish I had the opportunity to have met, and his fiance. But he says the number one obligation, the number one mandate for government is to defend and protect its citizens. But border security, funding of border security was emergency item number 4. Why is it number 1? That year, the number 1 item for Greg Abbott was universal pre-K. It wasn't border security. And it's still not border security, Dan. It's still not. And they doubled? Is $1.8 billion, is that a doubling of what the previous budget was for border security? Go ahead, Dan.
It's just political theater. It's, again, Greg Abbott was asked by, what's that publication in Austin? It's escaping me right now, but it's
The Statesman?
They're kind of a liberal paper, but the guy asked him, he said, would you be willing to implement E-Verify across the board?
Oh, the Tribune, the Texas Tribune. You're talking about the Texas Tribune?
Yeah, Texas Tribune, yeah,
okay.
Right. Yeah, he was asked that, and straight up, and Greg Abbott, of course, they'll say, yeah, we'll do that on with state agencies and stuff, but that's not where most of the employment of illegal aliens is coming from.
What an admission, Dan. What an admission. We'll do it for state agencies. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that the state of Texas is hiring illegal invaders? Is that what you're telling me? We need E-Verify for hiring in the government? Is the government actually hiring illegal invaders?
I don't think the government directly does it, but the government hires contractors, and the contractors hire subcontractors. You know how that game goes. Yeah, and so... And so what's happened is, what he said, well, we don't want to do that to businesses. We don't want to do that to businesses. In other words, listen, Governor Abbott, I'm supposed to take you seriously if you say that you want to stop the flow of invaders into our state. But at the same time, you just said, well, I don't want to make life difficult for all the companies and businesses to hire them. So in other words, you're going to put your hand out like saying stop, halt, but at the same time, your other hand's got you're dangling a banana. It's ambiguous. And you passed the law, and I applaud you. Yeah, you passed the sanctuary city law and all that stuff. But the bottom line is they're still invading us at a astronomical number. This is a very drastic, just colossal crisis, and it's going to take drastic, colossal measures to stop it. They don't want to do that. They don't want to upset the flow. They don't want to tick off all the mega donors. They're terrified of that. That's who really runs the state.
What are you expecting?
Charles Butt.
Oh, Charles Butt of HEB.
He can walk into the Capitol and they all shiver,
Charles Butt of HEB.
I'm sorry?
The Charles Butt of for people who don't know, Charles Butt of HEB grocery stores. They do fantastic television commercials and radio commercials, and they sign up every athletic superstar as spokespeople. However, when it comes to border security and education, Charles Butt is bad news. I can't tell you the last time I spent a penny at HEB. I'd rather run out of gas.
I won't even look at an HEB.
I'd rather run out of gas.
That is funding your enemy.
Absolutely. Now, what are you looking for legislatively for 2019, Dan? Anything on your radar so far, or the speaker's race, or anything like that?
Well, I haven't tuned in. I'm happy that Joe Strauss is going to be gone, but what I fear is it's just a game of whack-a-mole. You can replace the politicians, but the thing is, you knock this one down, but another one just like him pops up. It's like that game, that you play in the video arcade, whack-a-mole. And let me ask anybody this: has the establishment or the machinery that runs Austin, has that gone away? Has the plutocracy and has the big money donors, the Hillco Partners lobbying groups, have they gone away? What makes a candidate viable? Well, he has a lot of money behind him. They can say all the right things. He can get up there and say, I'll send snipers to the border. But you really need to look at who's backing them, who's behind the campaign. And if it's someone like Charles Butt or Perry Holmes or I could just go down the list. You need to really ask yourself: are they giving these candidates this kind of money so they can, cut off the spigot to the cheap illegal labor supply? And I think that really we need to learn to look past the campaign rhetoric and the political theater that you're seeing, and all the promises made, and look at really who do you think that this candidate is going to be subjugated to, us or the people that own him?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's just a real problem. Look at it on the national level. Look at Paul Ryan and someone like that. When Paul Ryan goes and meets with Sheldon Adelson or the Koch brothers, or who else? Paul Singer or someone like that. Do you really think that Paul Ryan is going to do anything about the border? And that's the problem I see, and I don't know what the answer is, Claver, because I'm not a leftist or Democrat that's saying that we should abolish campaign, get rid of money out of campaigns or whatnot. I don't know exactly what the answer is to this. All I know is
it's multifaceted, Dan. Dan, it's multifaceted. It's all the things that you're talking about. It has to be done on a multi-pronged approach. It's hard to do but the solutions are right there in front of our faces. But as you've been pointing out, they just don't want to do it. The solutions are there. We know it has to be done. The magnets need to be pulled up by the roots. You know, there's a whole idea of anchor babies and the misinterpretation of the 14th Amendment. Birth certificates shouldn't be given out. Driver's licenses shouldn't be given out. They shouldn't be admitted into our government school classrooms, our institutions of higher learning. The magnets need to be pulled out. The whole E-Verify. The employers need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent. We know what the solutions are and what need to be done. They don't want to do it, Dan Golvach.
Yeah, and who's been controlling the government in Texas? Which governor was it that got in-state tuition?
Perry?
Okay.
Perry?
Yes. And that's just what I'm saying. There's this game that they play, and this is how it works. Is we got to fool the voters into thinking that we're on their side. But, once we get into office, and we can do these legislative tricks like they did back in 2011 with Joe Strauss, so he could say that he was trying to do something about sanctuary cities. He put up HB 9. He sent it over to the Senate when he knew it wouldn't pass in a 2/3 vote in the Senate as SB 9. And then Perry calls the special election, the special vote on this
special session.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, and turned it around as SB 12, and then it came back to Joe Strauss, and he chucked it. They do these things. They hope that people don't follow the legislative. They don't chronicle what happens, and it gets boring and mundane. Mm-hmm. And they just want to be able to say 2 years later in a television ad, "I'm Joe Strauss, and back in 2011, I tried to do something about sanctuary cities, but it didn't pass the Senate." But he forgets, and then you got people like, and I try to point this out on a short 20-second TV ad, and you got people like Brandon Darby and what's his name, Scott Craddock over there at Texas GOP, getting on a major radio station calling me a liar.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. Mm-hmm.
And then you can play it on your show, Claver. Scott Craddock, if you don't know who he is, he's one of the reporters at Texas GOP. I granted him an interview. He came to my house. This is back in early 2016 when we were still trying to replace Strauss. Mm-hmm. And he comes to my house. Well, what Scott didn't realize on his way to my house is my house is a recording studio. So when he got here, he had their mic set up, and I had my mic set up. Mm-hmm. And I recorded the whole thing.
You went Omaroso. You went Omaroso on him.
Yeah, I recorded. I told him though. I didn't trick him. I said, "Look, you guys. I just do it this way. I didn't. I'm not hiding anything. There's my mic. I'm recording this as well. I'm sure there's nothing that you're going to say that you wouldn't want me to record. So, because you're recording everything I say, and that's when the mood changed, and they never published the report,
mm-hmm.
or they never published the interview because I cornered him on it. I said, "You're not going to get out of this, Scott. Let's talk about HB 9, SB 9, and how SB 9 got turned into SB 12. It got sent back to Joe Strauss, and Joe Strauss let it die in committee on the calendars. Let's talk about that, because that's really what I was charging in that commercial that you accused me of being a liar about." Mm-hmm. And he would not answer. He wouldn't answer it. And
mm-hmm.
therefore, he didn't publish, because I just kept biting at him with that, those.
And here's the thing. You mentioned Brandon Darby. Remember all those guys, a lot of those guys, there's connections between Texas GOP vote and Breitbart, Texas.
Yeah. Most people don't know this about, what's the other report? The guy that wrote my story, Bob Price. Bob Price was president of Casa Leche or something like that. It was the largest amnesty group in Texas. Now here's a guy that's the president and the top dog of an amnesty group that is at the same time pretending to be a border hawk in Breitbart.
He used to write for Texas GOP Vote, man.
Yeah,
and Shadwick as well, his girlfriend Shadwick.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sorry, but Texas GOP, ex-Norm Adams, in 2011, the sanctuary city bill that they put up that I was talking about, SB 9, HB 9, and all that, Norm Adams is the one that went, and along with Steve Holtze, and of course, you know, Charles Butt, that stopped that thing. They lobbied to stop it.
Man, I was fighting Norm Adams.
Possibly saved my son.
My
son's killer was allowed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, I had to testify against Norm Adams. We were trying to give driver's licenses in 2011 and 2013.
Yeah, he's evil. He's our enemy. People need to start calling this. It's just like saying invader. We need to get away from. I don't call Norm Adams someone with a different opinion. I call Norm Adams and people like him, like Steve Holtze and Charles Butt, my enemy. When someone pushes and gets a lawless policy instated, that is your enemy. If it's the type of policy that gets your child killed, that is an enemy. I don't know what an enemy is if it's not.
Yep, exactly.
You know, they are the enemy. They're the enemy of freedom too, and I'll tell you why. Because what they're doing ultimately is they're being useful idiots to the Democrat Party, who has a different goal. And that goal is to usher in a socialist voting bloc.
Absolutely. Dan, I'm completely out of time, man, but I'm not going to let you go unless you give us a rundown of some of your bookings, at least for this weekend. Guys, Dan Golvach, he's passionate about the invasion, and he's got good reason. He lost his son, to an illegal invader in January of 2015.